Welcome to part 2 of this 4-part mini course on how to use Cursor AI to build a custom wiggle panel in Adobe After Effects. In this part 2, first we set up a project folder to keep everything organized, and then we jump into Cursor and start building our custom wiggle panel for After Effects, just like I do in After Effects. Before I start a project, I'm going to set up a project folder on my computer. I have a folder called Code. Inside Code, I have another folder called Code Builds. Every time I start a new coding project or anything that I'm experimenting with, whether it's Cursor or another AI tool, I'm going to put it inside my Code Builds. This is basically my sandbox for building things. So inside of this folder, I just have the one project now for this tutorial, but I have a folder called AE Script Panel. That's the project that we're currently working on. Inside of this, AE project files, this is where I save the After Effects project file along with the footage that I'm using to test the panel. Dev, this is going to be where I store the file that Cursor generates for the panel. And in the Documents folder, this is going to be where I keep any documents, cheat sheets, notes, basically all the stuff that I have ChatGPT write for me these days, including all the prompts that I'm going to be using for this project. And I also have ChatGPT write me up a README file, which is basically just going to help me if I open up this project in the future, I can know what I was thinking and what this project is about. Here is my organization system. I keep my code folder in the home folder on my Mac. I have a template new project folder. Inside of that are all the folders that we're using for this project. They're all empty, so whenever I want to start a new vibe coding project, I'm just going to duplicate this template, give it a new name, and I'll just drag it into the code build folder. The code build is where I put all of the projects that I'm working on. This is basically my sandbox. And then I have a code resources folder. This is going to be where I store starter templates or anything related to coding I'm going to put in this resources folder. And a Mac tip, whenever you want to create a shortcut to a folder so you have quick access to it, you can just drag it right to the sidebar of Finder. And if you ever want to remove that shortcut, maybe when you're done with the project, you can just right-click, remove from sidebar. Let's start building. Open Cursor. Click on the Open project. Navigate to the folder, select it, click Open. Now in the Explorer bar, you're going to see the folder that you just opened in Cursor, along with everything that was inside of that project folder. The Explorer panel in Cursor is basically mirroring whatever you have opened. If you're to remove something from your project folder, so if I move this out of the project folder, notice it disappears over in the Explorer because Cursor doesn't know where it's located anymore. If you add something into your project folder, it's going to update in the Explorer. And a little side tip. If maybe you created a text file with all of your prompts that you want to use inside of Cursor, you click on your text file and it looks like a bunch of gibberish. It's probably because you saved the text file as rich text. So open up your RTF file in something like TextEdit, go to the Format menu and choose Make Plain Text. Click OK. That is going to convert it to a text file or a .txt file. Go to the File menu and Save, and then when you go back into Cursor, click on the text file and you should be able to read it. Now you could get started vibe coding by just pressing Command or Control-I and just start typing out a text prompt, asking Cursor to make you something, and then you can just go back and forth until you get it right. Or you can use a chat assistant, such as ChatGPT, to help you come up with a prompt. And that's what I did. This is the first prompt I'm going to give Cursor. And I think one tip, if you're just getting started doing some vibe coding or learning some no AI code tools like Cursor, don't try to do everything all at once. If you can break things up into steps, I think you're going to get better results. So for this first prompt, I'm not asking for any functionality. I just want to build the panel, put a button on it that says wiggle. The button's not going to do anything. Give the name of the panel a title, that's it. And then after it makes the panel successfully, then we can start adding some functionality. And a little prompting tip. I learned this from OpenAI, the makers of ChatGPT, and I think this is really good. And you don't have to be complicated. If you want better results when you're typing in a text prompt, is to use what they call a context plus expectations framework. So whenever you're typing a text prompt, first give the AI some context. And it could be super simple, but just give it some insight. Give it your reasons, your motivations, or your why behind typing the text prompt. And then you're going to type in the expectation, what it is you want in return. Okay, so I'm going to copy the first prompt, Command or Control C. I'm going to go into cursor. Remember the keyboard shortcut, Command or Control I, that jumps the cursor over to the chat box. Paste Command or Control V. There's my prompt in the text field. I can click the send button or use the keyboard shortcut, enter or return. Now cursor is going to do its magic. You'll see in the main editor here, some code is going to start generating once it starts generating. Okay, so cursor is done with the first prompt. Cool. Over in the chat panel, you can see here, it's telling me exactly what it created, along with all the features. It's also giving me instructions on how to use the script. It's telling me exactly where to place it so I can open it in After Effects. So that's cool. In the center main editor panel, we can see the code that Cursor generated, and over in the Explorer on the left sidebar, you can see that Cursor created a new file called myaetools.jsx, and JSX is the extension used in Adobe for scripts. Whenever you see the code highlighted in green, that is telling you that Cursor generated new code, and it needs to be either accepted or approved in order to save into the file. When you enter a text prompt, whenever you see the code highlighted in green, that is telling you that is new code generated by Cursor, and you need to either accept it or reject it to save it into the file or the project. As we start adding more prompts, if Cursor needs to make changes and delete some lines of code, it is going to highlight any code that's about to be deleted in red. So green is new code, red is code that is going to be deleted. But either way, if it's highlighted in green or red, you need to either accept or reject. Sometimes you're going to see multiple blocks of code, all with an accept or reject in the bottom right corner. So you can accept or reject them one at a time. Or if you come down to the bottom, you can accept all of the changes or use a keyboard shortcut, Command or Control Enter. So I'm just going to accept the changes by clicking Accept File. Now you see the highlight goes away. So now that code is saved in our .jsx file, which is in our project file. I'm just going to click and move it into the dev folder. I'll open up our project folder, open up the dev folder, and there is our myaetools.jsx file ready to be installed in the ScriptUI folder in Adobe After Effects. We can open After Effects and test to see if it works. And if you want to learn the tech and the terminology behind the file extensions for the tools and scripts for After Effects, just some of the general coding stuff, take a screenshot of this graphic because I found it pretty helpful. The quick and dirty overview. First, Java and JavaScript have nothing to do with each other. Most people use these terms interchangeably, but in most cases, you are going to be using JavaScript, also known as JS. This is a coding language. Now, Adobe uses their own version of JavaScript called ExtendScript. So if you ever see Adobe ExtendScript, which is what we're using for this project, that is just Adobe's version or a different modification of JavaScript. If you ever write an expression in Adobe After Effects, the expression is just a snippet of code based on JavaScript. And what we're building today for this panel, the extension is .jsx. So when you see a .jsx file for After Effects, you know that is a script file. We are building a ScriptUI file, and ScriptUI, that just indicates that we can dock that panel. I don't want to move this original .jsx file into After Effects, as that is what Cursor is using for the code. So as we add new prompts and make changes to our panel, Cursor needs to know where that file is located. So what I'm going to do is just make a duplicate of it, and I'll put the duplicate into After Effects. I'm on a Mac, so to duplicate the file, I can just select it, right-click, and choose Duplicate, or use the keyboard shortcut Command-D. Now, I want these to have the identical name, so when I replace them, I can just drag it on and replace, but they can't have the same name when they're in the same folder, so I'll just drag the duplicate outside. I'll tap Return. I'll just get rid of the copy. So now they're identical. First, I'm just going to make sure that After Effects is closed. Now I'm going to go find the folder where we're going to drag this into. So I'm going to go into the Applications folder on the Mac, find the current version of After Effects, open up the Scripts folder. Now we're looking for the ScriptUI panels. I'm just going to click and drag this onto the sidebar of Finder, so now I have a shortcut. So when I go back to my project folder, I'm going to select the duplicate. I'm just going to drag it into that ScriptUI panel. You do need to enter your Mac password whenever you're adding and removing things from this folder. And now we have our .jsx file in the proper folder. So it's time to open up After Effects and test it out. Go to the Window menu. There I can see the myaetools.jsx. Click. How cool is that? We just made our own custom ScriptUI panel for After Effects. You can see it's named correctly. It's named myaetools. It has a wiggle button. I can tell it's dockable because it's got the little hamburger menu. Pretty cool. If I want to dock it, I'm just going to click on the name. I can move it anywhere I want in my After Effects user interface. Click. Now the wiggle button should not be doing anything at this stage. We can test it just to confirm. Let's add a shape here. I'll select the shape layer, tap P for the position property. I'll select the position property. I'll click the wiggle button. I can tell it didn't add an expression because the values did not turn red. It is working exactly the way we want it. Not working. We have reached the end of section 2. In section 3, we're going to make the wiggle button work. Before we move on to section 3 though, let's just do a quick recap. We started by setting up a project folder and just discussing how you can keep all of your future projects organized. We then opened the folder in Cursor. I then copied the prompt that I had ChatGPT help me create using the Context plus Expectations framework. So with the prompt copied to my clipboard, opened up Cursor, pasted the prompt in the chat box in the top right corner. I clicked Send. Cursor whipped up the code. We accepted the code. Cursor created a .jsx file in our project folder. First, I'm just going to make sure that After Effects is closed and open up the project folder. Go into the dev folder. I'm going to make a duplicate of this as we want the original to stay where it is. I'll drag it out so I can rename it the exact same thing. I'm just going to remove the copy. And now I need to add it into the ScriptUI panels in After Effects. So I'll go to the Applications folder on the Mac, After Effects 2025, Scripts. There's the ScriptUI panels. Drag it onto the sidebar for a shortcut. And then just drag that into the ScriptUI's panel. So with our .jsx file in the ScriptUI's panel, we can open After Effects, make sure the panel is working, and Bob's your uncle. And that is the end of part 2. And in part 3, we are going to make the wiggle button work.